Today is Sunday, September 12th, 2021. Let's make aspiration, set our intentions by saying the four Immeasurables prayer. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings not be separated from the happiness that has never known suffering. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment, anger, and aversion. Nick, remind me to do the 9 purifying breaths before we meditate today, because I forgot that last time. The four measurable prayer. I want to talk a little bit about the view, and to look a little bit beyond just the surface value of that prayer, which seems like a lovely imagine there's no heaven kind of vibe, which is important and legitimate, but that prayer really ties into the view, when we talk about the view in a Buddhist sense. What is the view? Right? The view is really the truth of the nature of reality as defined by the Buddha. Right? Certain qualities that we've talked about here, like emptiness and interdependence and impermanence, interconnectedness, non-duality, and those things. So when you say the prayer, may all beings have happiness, all beings is closer to the truth than just you, just me. All beings as one being is closer to the ultimate truth, right? Ultimate reality. And we talk about the two truths in Buddhism, the relative and the ultimate. The ultimate is that we're all one, there's non-duality. The relative is that here I am in this human form that has to, eat, sleep, eliminate, and things like that. So Padmasambhava Guru Rinpoche said, my view is as vast as the sky, but my actions are as fine as a grain of sand. And it's hard to act from a place of non-duality at this point. A Buddha can, an enlightened being can. They don't have to try. It's spontaneous in them. But for us, we have to start with the moment. We have to start with where we're at. We have to start with what we can do now in this moment and how we can behave in the world that are somehow in tune and in harmony with these teachings. Many of you came last year during the pandemic and going through a lot of stressful times, uncertainty, loss, anxiety, and things. And meditation seemed like a good way to deal with those things, which in some ways it is. But in some ways, I'll pull the rug out from under you a little bit, because that's really not why we meditate. It's okay if that's what has brought you here. But we're meditating. Now we're in meditation 103. So we're kind of knee deep into, we're not just in a secular world of meditation as like another self-help mechanism. We're knee deep in the study of Buddhism, actually, for better, for worse. I think for better. But you are practicing meditation to crush delusion and to be of benefit to all beings. Crushing delusion is the wisdom aspect of it, and for the benefit of all beings is the compassion aspect of it. And those two things go together. The nature of reality being non-dual is also, ties, right, is in the concept of emptiness, shunyata, is inherent in that. Emptiness and compassion is like, fire and heat. They're flame and heat. They're together. They're not they don't exist separately. in this context. And a lot of what we're working on is going beyond the ego, because working a spiritual path, there's pitfalls, because we can, the ego is very clever and can use anything to adorn itself, and pump itself. And the ego is kind of one of the barriers towards embodying compassion, understanding and relating to this wisdom aspect of the bigger picture, the view, interdependence, interconnectedness, non-duality. Non-duality being kind of the toughest, I think, to relate to in a way. Interdependence we can. The pandemic, was so clear how interdependent we are. A virus happens in one country, and on the other side of the world, a month later, everyone's dealing with it in a very urgent, profound, difficult way. Impermanence. Again, last year, dealing with loss, loved ones, friends, colleagues, dying. There's a really good book called Not for Happiness by Zongsar Khyentse Rinpoche. We've read some of his teachings a little bit in here. There it is. Nick just put up on the screen. And he says, really, if you're meditating to relieve stress, you're better off getting a full body massage. He says that in the book. Not to take anything away or diminish massage or meditation or anything, but he's basically talking about in a Buddhist context, the context, the purpose of meditation really is to break this delusion that we've been under for countless lifetimes, and the delusion that we're under in samsara, that we are somehow this separate entity from everything else. And going back to what I was saying about the ego, we can use spirituality to pump up the ego rather than kind of see through it. It's not like you have to get rid of the ego. I'm not even saying that ego is necessarily a bad thing, but we have to figure out how to put that into perspective. Almost like giving it its own little corner and saying, well, there it is, it's there, it's not gone yet, or whatever. I understand what it's trying to do, because it's trained to do that, and it's been doing that. And by what I'm saying is, self-aggrandizement, the adornment, I'm important, I'm learned, I'm better than this one, competitive vibe, and the opposite, I'm a piece of garbage, which is equally not real as the flip side, that I'm better, I'm worse, I'm worthless, I'm not good. That's the flip side of that, that ego thing. They're both equally untrue. They're both a distorted point of view and perspective. For someone who is, say they're an actor, or they're known for TV, and they go do this meditation class where there's people coming in to listen to them talk, there's a big ego thing that gets pumped and stroked, and you can, use that as, I'm better than all these other, this makes me important, this makes me know things, and the ego eats that up like food, But with practice, especially meditation and Dharma, study and practice, you can get a sense of that, okay, that thing is there. It's in a corner of the psyche somewhere. And maybe have a sense of humor about that. And maybe almost like you're indulging, almost like you're treating it like a child, Child has this big imagination, and the child might say things, I'm the dad today, I'm the mom today, I'm the boss today, and you might say, yes, today you're the whatever. It's like understanding why it behaves the way it does. Not judging, not saying bad, you shouldn't have this thought, you shouldn't have this thing, just leaving it where it is. So then there's a space for something else to happen. Space for that view to somehow take root a little bit in our consciousness. There's lately, I'm going to just speak from really, really, really personal experience, which I don't always do, but, and I might be really wrong. I might be really wrong and misguided and stuff, and probably am, but lately I really try to relate to the world as anything that comes into my view, right? Purview or whatever. You walk outside, you have an exchange with someone, you have you're engaging with someone for whatever reason. Somebody asks you directions, you bump into somebody on the street, you see somebody you know, you buy something from someone at the store. Those things are karmically, have karmic arisen through karma, right? Causes and conditions, a series of events that have led to this thing. And to almost read into those or look at those things as if this is not just meaningless, this is not, and not also, forcing meaning onto it either. I'm not doing that, like saying this person must be the Buddha in disguise, this person asking for money or something. I'm not saying go that way, but just almost respecting this interaction with the world as not a meaningless chunk of time between going from one important event to the next. So life becomes this series of events that's is a result of your karma, and is your karma being engaged in, activating itself, interacting with you. And maybe look a little bit deeper into those things. Maybe using these teachings and this view in that moment to open space a little bit. What you do with that is, I can't really say, with those moments. I'm probably being a little vague, but the problem is how, it's one thing to sit on a cushion. It's one thing to meditate, which is very important. And I don't think any of these teachings can take root without it. Essential. And it's another thing to hear the Dharma, if we're lucky enough, which is precious, precious, precious. And to be able to study the Dharma, to have physical mental faculties, and be in a situation where you can actually study the Dharma, Precious, precious. But then, how do we apply this to our lives? What are we going to do differently? Is it just about calming down? Is it just about not being stressed out? Maybe, but then what? Buddhism, they talk about view, meditation, and action. So you start with the view, which we were talking about, and we're talking about a view that we are not familiar with. We've had a very different view, a wrong view from much of our lives. Adopting this view, non-duality, impermanence, interdependence, understanding the relationship between wisdom and compassion a little bit. View, then the meditation. That's where you work with the mind. But coming from this place of the view. So it's not just this vacuum of a mind, just spacing out or just relaxing. It's, the working with the mind in terms of how it relates to this view and these teachings that we're understanding. And then action. Action meaning, well, we're going into the world. How are we going to interact with the world? I had someone wrote to me the other day, said, it's a good question. How do you find the time to practice? Something like that, right? We're all so busy. What's the best way to find time to practice? Like, ultimately, practice is all the time. It's not just here at 10 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday. It's not just on the cushion. It's like I was just saying, you leave the house, you're in the elevator, and there's someone else in your building in the elevator. You can just be in your mind, think, not even acknowledge, nod, see that person in your corner, thinking about, what bus you're going to take. Or you can just be present in that moment and acknowledge there's another sentient being in there. And, being present in that moment and in that exchange. I'm not saying forcing it into some thing that you think should happen. Opening that space in the mind that we do in on the cushion, in the outside, in the world, in reality, in our interactions, when you're posting something on social media. I'd love to hear from you about these things and if they make sense at all. Because otherwise, Sophie Bovary teaches, gives massages. She's a professional therapist. Go see someone who's really good at their job like that, and that'll help you physically calm down. So, which is a very valuable, important thing that we need, and mentally calm down because of that. But what we're doing here is a little bit different. I think healers like that who work on the body, it's extremely important and can be a very important component to practice because it's taking care of yourself, and that generosity of someone who does that kind of work, or like a therapist, psychotherapist, massage therapist, and those things are, that those are healing modalities that are very important. But meditation is not just that. Like I said, I'm not talking about what's better or what's what. I'm just talking about what it is and what it's for. I'm not ranking things. That's not, um, just talking about what it is, So with that in mind, why don't we meditate? We'll do the 9 purifying breaths. Um, so we start with the right hand on the left side, the right channel, which is either white or red, depending on how you define your subtle body channels in terms of how you define yourself, gender-wise or not. Switching to the left channel, which I define as red, which deals with attachment and grasping and things like that. Breathing in the enlightened air of generosity and contentment and things, and breathing out all that attachment, greed, lust, those things. Now we're going into the central channel, the blue, which deals with ignorance and wisdom. Breathe in the wisdom. And breathe out ignorance, not knowing reality, not knowing the truth. And the last one, we eject through the top of our heads, merging our mind with space. I'll go into 11 minutes meditation. Can you use your mind to look at your mind? Can you use your mind to see what you're thinking about? And when you notice what you're thinking about, can you just leave it where it is? Can you find some separation between the mind that is aware of itself and the thoughts that arise within it? Can you use your mind to look at your mind? Can you use your mind to see what you're thinking about and leave it where it is? And know that whatever you're thinking about has arisen from that over awareness and will dissolve back into it. That over awareness, that awareness that is aware of itself, that mind that is aware of itself, that never changes. That's always there, always with us. the thoughts arise and disintegrate on a constant basis and have no essence and no permanence at all. The mind is always there, but what is its essence? I don't, that's a lot more difficult to understand. But it is a consciousness, mind stream, awareness. Meditation is all of what we're doing. It's not just the moments when you're not thinking. Meditation is the entire 11 minutes. It's working with the mind, which is what this entire 11 minutes is. It's not about success or failure. It's not to be judged that way. Can you use mind to look at mind? Back to the breath. Good. Um, yeah, if you're in New York, I have not done this, but some people I know have. Sophie Bovary is uh, people I know say she's really, really wonderful. And she has a great Instagram and posts really interesting stuff about acupuncture and cupping and massage therapy. She's very, very smart. I hope you don't mind me promoting your Instagram site, SophieBolvary. You can always block who you don't want, but she's really, really brilliant, and really great, like I said, from people who I trust. Um, and speaking, what I was talking about is really from personal experience, and I always encourage, if you are want to be on this Buddhist path, to really find an authentic teacher from an authentic lineage. Um, I'm speaking from personal experience that I feel has been a resultant of practice, Um, but it's you need to go to the source, to really make progress in this, and getting a teacher is most important. I have a lot of admiration for all of you, and a lot of affection and respect, because to see you come week after week so diligently and so passionately in your participation is very inspiring. But there's a lot more you can get from a teacher. So please do that. I wanted to speak a little bit about the Bodhisattva Vows, but we have a lot of questions, maybe some things to talk about. Nick, maybe next week, remind me, we'll talk about the Bodhisattva Vows, as I think that needs space and some time, and maybe I should do a little research instead of just talking off the top of my head. Let's see if there's anything we need to talk about. You've spoken. Just know in general, anything off topic, I'm not going to answer, so you may as well not waste your time. Sorry. You've spoken before on the idea of meditation giving you that space in situations between action and reaction. No, it's a space between thought and action more than anything. I'm still finding it hard to give myself that space, and I find it can still be snappish at times. Do you have any tips for creating this space? Yeah, it's going to take a lot of time. 100%. Do I have any tips for creating the space? Is exactly what we're doing, is to practice, and start to bring that practice into life, and it's just consistency. It is hard to give that space. It should be hard, because our minds have, and our brains have been programmed not to do it. We've lived for eons, not doing those things. So, basically what I spoke about is like, when you're out engaging in the world, or in your house engaging with the world, or on the phone, try to bring the awareness of your meditation practice to that. Try to bring the awareness of the view of Buddhism, or the principles of Buddhism that you're studying, into these interactions. It just takes constant practice and effort. How can we practice presence and posting on social media? That's a very good point. By being, not just posting, but commenting, reacting to comments. During last year, during the election, I was very consumed by opinions, my own opinions. And I would engage a lot in on Instagram with people, with comments, and a lot of hate coming my way for things I posted, and a lot of anger from I was getting very angry. And often would write back without out of that anger rather than out of a certain attention and mindfulness and real awareness. And I try not to do that anymore. So practicing, it's like when they used to say, before you send an email, maybe wait 5 minutes, read it again, because it's really bad to send it. Once you post a thing on social media, post an email, it's going out there and people are going to see it. And it's not always easy to take back. So you have to really be mindful and attentive to why, examine your motivations. Why am I posting this? Do I want to push buttons? Do I want to shove my agenda down people's throats? Or do I really feel it's important to get this point across? And it will benefit people by getting this point across. And this is an important thing that people should think about. We can really just, the ego is very adept at saying, I need to say this, it's important, but really what you're doing is really like sticking it to certain people. I'm big, I've done that and do that often. It makes sense that it's all the time. Otherwise, it seems like another thing that can be held or purchased for a period of time. Yeah. Yeah, it's all the time. Our minds don't take a day off, or a moment off. It's our mind that we're working with, really. It's really the only thing we're working with. You keep your body in good shape because you want to live and you don't want to be consumed by illness and hospitals and doctors, and you do what you can, but ultimately it's all about your mind, how you're going to exist in this world. Someone very close to me is dealing with immense self-hate and anger. It breaks my heart to see them suffer, and it weighs heavy on my mind. I feel compelled to help, but also want to protect myself. I think a lot of people deal with self-hate. I think it's a very modern problem too. I might have said this once before in class, but I remember the Dalai Lama was doing a teaching in America, I think, and someone asked him, "How do we deal with self-hate?" He didn't understand what the concept was. He's like, "What do you mean self-hate?" And whoever asked, or whoever was moderating the session, explained that it's a very common affliction. And he was amazed because from his culture, it was something that really was not common at all, or not something in the lexicon, and not something in the public consciousness and stuff like that. And he was actually kind of shocked and really, really sad to hear that. And like I was saying before, that kind of, self feeling like less than, I'm bad, I saw, all that. That's the flip side of ego too, because it's equally as distorted as thinking I'm great, I'm the best, I'm better than everybody. It's the polar opposite. And you're asking, you feel compelled to help, but you need to protect yourself. I guess it's about finding what are the ways to help, because help often can, especially when you're dealing with someone very close to you, can also become codependency. That person can use their own part of their self-hate can be fed by dragging you into it and you playing a role in them dealing with it, and it becomes this feedback loop. So a lot of it's about drawing boundaries, and a lot of it's about, it's hard for me to speak to it because I don't have specificities, I mean, you can write to me I mean, you know who you are. You're in contact with me. So if you want to be more specific or even talk about, I don't know if I can help you, but if I could, of course I would. But it's a little bit hard not knowing certain specifics on the dynamic and what's going on. You know, it's a little general for me to speak to. So you feel free to. I don't know if you have my you have my you DM me and we can talk about it some either through text or something. Maybe get specific if you really need to talk about it. But I think it's really you have to be really honest with yourself and what you can do. And what you're capable of, like you say, protecting yourself, you know, because you're not going to be any help to them if you're hurting yourself, right? That doesn't make sense either. I wish I could be more specific, but it's hard. But be in touch. What you said about being in the elevator with another sentient being really resonated with me. During COVID, our building has had a lot of turnover, and I don't know many of our neighbors now. I find myself retreating to a corner and hiding behind my mask. I am going to try to be more open now, at least silently wish them well. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to take a step to be more open, like say hello, which sometimes is a big deal, do it without any expectations. You know, be clear about your motivation, but do it without any expectations, you know. It's like when you hold the door open for someone and they don't say thank you. They just walk in like you don't even exist, you know. And you might get angry like this idiot. I just held the door. They're not even acknowledging me. That's not the point. The point is the fact that you're doing it. You know what I mean? Don't do, if you're engaging in those ways, don't expect anything. Obviously, don't, like I always say, don't be a doormat if the person's rude and just and like bumps into something or whatever, you know. Or you can say you're welcome without them saying thank you and just see what happens. See how they respond. They don't say thank you, but you say you're welcome. um, you know, like the last question, you have to find a balance. But I find what we're talking about right now is action. So view, meditation, and action, those three components. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche really talks about that a lot. We're talking about how to, you know, how do we engage in the world by being practitioners? What do we, you know, what are we going to do differently? It's a big question, and it can't, and there's no one size fits all, and you can't apply it all to every encounter and every moment of your life. And it's not just about interactions with other beings; it's also about interacting with yourself, what you're doing, you know, with your life, what your routine is like, you know, what your habits are like. But if we're not bringing it into our life, then what are we doing? You know? Hi, I'm an American, lives in France and having difficulty finding a teacher. Is it legitimate if I have a teacher online? It's totally legitimate, especially during COVID. A lot of great, wonderful teachers, including mine, Garchen Rinpoche, was doing teachings and empowerments and retreats through Zoom and YouTube and stuff. So it's totally legitimate. You know, just make sure that your teacher is of an authentic lineage, you know, not just someone like me who's, you know, an actor or something who's a student who's, you know, you know, make sure that that's who, you know, they're an authentic teacher from an authentic lineage. You know, that's the most important. Your talk before the meditation today was very helpful. Thinking of ego like a child with a big imagination is a very useful allegory and was very eye-opening. I can't help but notice that you seem a little bit out. No, I'm not out of it. I feel great. I'm taking long pauses because, you know, when I'm talking about those things, they're not. I'm not just kind of rehashing things that I've learned. I'm trying to really speak to my own experiences and to try to be really precise. So rather than, you know, just keep going, I'll take a long pause just to sit and let those thoughts kind of calm or settle, So it might seem like I'm, don't know what I'm saying, which I don't, but it's not a factor of being out of it. I loved how you reminded us the entire 11 minutes was meditation. I'm getting better at mind seeing mind. Yes, if you wanted to learn how to play the guitar, you're not going to play, some complex, Bach piece a week after starting, are you? You're going to learn first how to hold it and how to, you're going to have to develop calluses, and you're going to have to figure out what a chord is and what fit, how it's just like, it's practice. I'm having trouble sticking to a dedicated practice. My only goal I can really stick to is sitting meditation. That's pretty damn good if you can stick to that. Should I be more along the path, so to speak, before seeking a teacher? No, 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 no. You should definitely find a teacher. Would a teacher keep me more dedicated? Probably. I don't want to waste anyone's time. No, no, no. You should find a teacher. Yeah, of course. Listen, if you wanted to learn how to speak a foreign language and you were doing it on, some app on your phone, and you found yourself only getting so far, not far maybe, or a little bit far, and you knew there was this expert language teacher who had an incredible record and career of teaching successfully people, hundreds, thousands of people, this language, why would you wait to study with them? Are you familiar with Freud's theory on the ego? No, I'm really not that interested, I'll be honest with you. Buddhism, especially Tibetan Buddhism, is so vast, and there's so much to learn. I don't explore or even delve into other, not saying that it's better. It's just, people say, you're familiar with this type of Eastern religion or this branch of Buddhism. It's like, I don't have, I'm 55, you know what I mean? I don't know. The clock is ticking, and there's so much to do in Tibetan Buddhism. I am so, uh, I have no space to learn about anything else. I don't see how it would really help, because all I find everything I need to know is on this path. Not saying you shouldn't if you're interested. I'm just not. Today, I found myself wanting to use meditation to find self-forgiveness through breath awareness. I didn't want to get too caught up in the mind. Do you have any idea on how we can use meditation to extend grace, not just to others, but to ourselves? That's a very good question. I think it's not just meditation, but using the Dharma, and the teachings. That's going to help you find self-forgiveness. And by self-forgiveness, how I see it as, like saying, these two polar opposites of the ego being, you suck, you're the best. And being able to see through the illusion and kind of distortion of those two things, and just kind of having a more real understanding of what self is. First of all, that the self is an illusion. You know what I mean? My name is just a name that somebody gave me, right? The fact that I am an actor is something that I just kind of, there's nothing solid about that. I've done these things or whatever, or I've engaged in these things, but there's nothing essential about it in my nature, right? When this body goes, my consciousness, there's nothing actor attached to that. What will go on, though, is the subtle mind, the Buddha mind. And, the positive and negative charges, if you will, or energy that you've created through karma, Turgar, founded by Mingyur Rinpoche, has good Bodhisattva online course. Funny, I was just looking at that. Yeah, Mingyur Rinpoche is a great teacher. Mingyur Rinpoche. Look him up. He's great. The question is, would you ever consider doing this more than once a week? Probably not. Not at this point. Or is there another recommendation for different groups to join? No, I mean, I don't know. There probably are. I would just say, maybe look into getting a teacher and seeing if they, I mean, because most teachers have regular practice sessions every week, and now they probably do them online. I would recommend that. I started chanting with local Nichiren Buddhists, and they recommend reading the Lotus Sutra. Is chanting and reading the Lotus Sutra compatible with Tibetan Buddhism? Probably. I don't know much about Nichiren Buddhism. I know a little bit about the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra is the words of the Buddha, so perfectly right and important thing for you to be studying. And you should follow your heart and what works. I practice Tibetan Buddhism because that's what I got into, and that's what I've committed myself to. I don't say that it's better than other forms. You know what I mean? It's just and like I said, I think it's better to find one path and stick with it than rather try 20 different paths and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Like I said, there's only so much time we have on this earth, in this body, and there's almost so much time in the day that we have to dedicate to this practice. So, yeah, if you're connecting with it, that's wonderful. You should follow that. I understand how ego can be harmful. Can you give an example of how it can be helpful? Yeah, like you don't want to step into traffic and get hit by a bus. Maybe. How can I keep the good parts and get rid of myself of the bad parts? By studying the Dharma and meditating. I am working towards living in the 3D earth and the higher dimensional levels. Is that what you were talking about? I don't know what that means. I don't know what the 3D earth is. I just know this earth, the one that we walk on. And I don't know what the higher dimensional levels are. I'm sorry. Are there any female teachers? Oh, yeah. I've done some teachings with Khandro Rinpoche, who's fantastic. Khandro Rinpoche. Pema Chodron is another great female teacher. Lama Tsultrim Allione is a really good one. Lama Tsultrim is Tsultrim. Elizabeth Modest Namgyal is a really good one. Khandro Rinpoche, I've done in-person teachings with and did Bodhisattva Vowels with her. She's tremendous mind teacher. Mingyur Rinpoche is my main teacher. He will be giving the Bodhisattva Vow online for free on October 9th. Fantastic. Now, registration isn't open yet, but info can be found on tergar.org, Tergar. Now, you don't have to commit to being a student of a certain teacher to take Bodhisattva Vows with him. My teacher is Garchen Rinpoche. It's who I took refuge with. But I've taken Bodhisattva Vows with several different teachers. So if this is really good, and something, if you're inspired to do, a really good opportunity to do it with. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Let's dedicate the merit from this session for the benefit of all beings. By this merit, may all beings attain the state of enlightenment, conquer the enemies of faults and delusions. May they be liberated from this ocean of samsara and its pounding waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death.